Let's bring in Peter Zalmayev in Kiev. He's the director of the Eurasia Democracy Initiative. Peter, always good to have you on this news hour.
Thank you.
Now, when we look at how these protests developed in the first place, it was because of a rise in these energy prices. But why would the price of LDP go up in a country that is already so rich in energy, oil and mineral resources?
That's a good question. It's $1 million question, in fact. And, you know, Kazakhstan is no exception from the general rule of galloping inflation brought on by scarcity post-pandemic. You know, it's no exception to the rule, despite the fact that, as you mentioned, it's rich in that sort of resource. It also speaks volumes about the sheer mismanagement of the presidential administration, how that they have not been able to provide stability in a rich, energy-rich country, simply because they're just too busy taking care of their own. Kazakhstan is known for its opulent oligarchic regime. It's known for its oligarchs buying up property in major financial hubs such as New York and London. And finally, I think, as they say, the chickens are coming home to roost. They're finally paying the price of their negligence, of their nepotist ways, and of their corruption.
Yeah, and these protests may have started because of the rising cost of energy, but also quickly descended into this call for a change in government. A new prime minister's been named, a caretaker government's there. Is it going to be enough, though, for the people of this country to stop protesting?
It seems like there's no traction anymore that the government has with the people. President Nazarbayev has been the de facto ruler uninterruptedly since 1989, since the very beginning of, even before, in fact, Kazakhstan's independence, as a Soviet party, Communist Party boss. And when he handed over power to his chosen successor, Mr. Tokayev, the Kazakhs were never able to determine who, in fact, is running the place. There was this dual kind of governance system, and I think finally it's showing that it hasn't worked out, because the people don't trust Tokayev as a real center of power, and whatever he's now giving to the protesters does not seem to work. And as we speak, the situation is developing so fast. Some places have reported that the police have actually taken the side of the protesters. It seems that soon Tokayev will be faced with a very stark choice, whether to appeal for a foreign intervention, foreign help, or not. And by that, I mean, most likely it would be Russia. And now I think all eyes are on Moscow, what Moscow is going to do in the case of these protesters, of the protests not stopping and in fact increasing in strength.
And Russia has, of course, asked for peace and for calm and for a peaceful resolution to all of this. But I'd like to understand if what's happening in Kazakhstan, which is seen as the most stable country in Central Asia, if that is going to have a knock-on effect to any of its regional neighbors.
In fact, the entire region is a tinderbox. The neighboring Kyrgyzstan has shown volatility since 2005, when its president, Mr. Akayev, was overthrown, and then the guy who overthrew him, Mr. Bakiyev, was in turn overthrown. So that country is very unstable, and it's very culturally, historically linked to Kazakhstan. So the spillover effect will be felt there, but also the neighboring Tajikistan and Uzbekistan, where the situation is a little bit different. But I think the countries are so historically and culturally linked that these events are surely going to reverberate, not just in that region, but throughout the whole former Soviet area.
And Peter, President Kassym-jomart Tokayev has blamed foreign provocateurs for what he's seeing happen in his country. You know, it's a line that we see from so many leaders around the world when the people start to rise up against the government. But in this context, who would he possibly be referring to? I mean, which country, which foreign provocateur, so to speak, would want to see unrest in Kazakhstan?
Well, it depends which way is blowing. His words were quite cryptic. He may have meant that the provocateurs were these Westerners hell-bent on regime change through these kinds of color revolutions that we've seen in Ukraine and in Georgia. And that's something that's a message that will be very friendly to the Kremlin. Some others have taken him to mean that it could be, in fact, Russia instigating this. And you know what? It's not past Vladimir Putin to do just that. He's done it in Ukraine. But once again, if Tokayev is going to be reliant on Russian help, then it's clear that he will take that message to mean that it's some foreigners that, just like in Ukraine, are trying to destabilize it. That would provide a pretext for Moscow to intervene. Right now, Moscow is saying they're for a peaceful resolution. But, Vladimir Putin does not want another kind of a triumph of popular uprising in a neighboring country. And I think he will be ready to intervene militarily if the push comes to shove.
Yeah, and it will be interesting to see how this plays out in the coming days. Such a fast developing situation. Peter Zalmayev, always fantastic to get your thoughts. Thank you so much.